name is Joey, and I would like to welcome you to the first episode of the Portmead Primary Podcast. We are so excited to kick things off and bring you a show that's all about our school, our community, and our stories, covering topics such as Portmead in the past, day-to-day successes of Portmead's and clear future. We've got some brilliant guest speakers lined up from people who know Portmead like the back of their hand, to people with big ideas and staff with great stories. There'll be laughs, memories, and even a few surprises. So whether you're listening in class, at home, or on the go, thanks for tuning in. We can't wait to share this journey with you. Let's get started. Now, to kick off our first episode in style, we've got a very special guest joining us. This guest knows Portmead better than most. He's led the school through busy turns, big decisions, and probably more assembly than they care to count. Whether it was helping pupils shine or keep things running behind the scenes, they played a big part in shaping Portmead we know today. So, we are really pleased to welcome our first guest, former head teacher at Portmead Primary, Mr. Kelvin Williams.
Well, thank you very much. What a welcome.
Mr. Williams, thank you so much for coming.
It's a privilege.
Mr. Williams, I hope you're sitting comfortably.
Yes, I am.
Our first question is, how many years did you work at Portmead?
How many years? Right, I started in 1972 and I finished in 2014. When I started here, I wasn't a teacher in Portmead Primary School. I was a teacher in Portmead Junior School because there were two schools here, juniors and infants. And this is the junior department, and they were known then as J1, J2, J3, J4. And there were two J1 classes, two J2s, two J3s, and two J4s. J4s are you a lot, year 6. But it wasn't until about 10 years after I'd been teaching that the two schools amalgamated. There were separate heads up until then. There was a headmistress here and a headmistress in the infant school. And later on then, they appointed one head teacher and one deputy over both schools.
How old were you when you became a teacher at Portmead?
22.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
were you the first head teacher, and how old were you when you became a head teacher?
I wasn't the first head teacher of this school, no. There were, there was Mr. Whitlick was before me, Mr. James, Miss Morgan. There were 4 before me. So I was the 5th head teacher of the school, I think. And what was the other part of the question?
How old were you when you became a head teacher?
Oh, gosh. Mr. Williams got to think himself now. 58 or 59.
Wow.
Yes, I was knocking on.
Did you always want to be a head teacher?
No, I didn't. I wanted to be a class teacher. And when I started here back in 1972, that's all I wanted to do was teach children. And then, a long time later, when the headmaster was Mr. James, he said one day, he came up here, it was, and he said, I've booked you in for a course. All right, okay. What course is this? He said, it's a course to be a deputy head teacher. And I said, well, I didn't want to really go on it. He said, yeah, you've got to go. And that's when I changed my mind. I went on the course for training to be a deputy. And then things progressed from there. After I'd been on the course, I was lucky to have the deputy headship in this school. And then later on, the headship in this school.
How long were you a head teacher for?
Until I retired in 2014.
How many teachers do you think you worked with during your time at Portmead?
Oh yeah, when I started here, we were there were 4 classes year 4 there, 8. So that would have been 16, and then things changed over the years. Oh, it must be about 50, at least. And that's not including the teaching assistants. So if you include the teaching assistants, you must be talking 100, 120 people over the years.
That's a great amount of digits.
It is, but it's a great amount of years as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
What was your best experience or moment from your time as a head teacher?
As a head teacher, not as a teacher, is it? As a head teacher. As a head teacher. Right. Well, that's difficult. I think there are 2 things really when I was a head that stuck in my mind. And one of them is to do with children, and the other one is obviously to do with children as well. But the first one to do with children, I remember we had a boy in year 5, and Mrs. Meredith will remember this, because Mrs. Meredith was part of this. And this particular boy, he wasn't very mobile. He couldn't run around very well, and he needed a lot of help. And the opportunity came because we used to take children on field courses, or field trips or residentials. And the opportunity came for this class, year 5 it was, Mr. Meredith?
Yeah, it was year 5.
Yeah. For year 5 to go on a residential up to a place called Llandrindod. And the teacher, Mr. Jones, who is now headmaster in Clydach, and Mrs. Meredith was the assistant who helped in the class. And I've forgotten the boy's name. Right. And he wanted to go. But things weren't straightforward because he wasn't very mobile, and he needed a lot of help. He would have needed a lot of support up there. So Mr. Jones and Mrs. Meredith said, right, we're prepared to be responsible for him, we'll take him. So we went up before the time came for the class to go and had a look. We had a look where he'd be sleeping, and Mr. Jones and Mrs. Meredith went up, and then they went up. And also, I think, Dad went with them.
Yeah, Dad.
Yeah. Yeah, to help as well. And do you know one of the best things when I was ahead, was I went up, they went up on the Monday, I went up on the Tuesday to make sure everybody was settling in and enjoying it. And you know, one of the biggest pleasures I had was to see this boy taking part with all the other boys and girls, climbing around. He was going up a wall, all with help. But the smile that was on his face, now that gave me a lot of pleasure. So that was one of the things when I was ahead that I thought, oh, that was great. And I couldn't have done it, I've got to be honest. I didn't do it. I'd only arranged it, but it was the teacher, Mr. Jones and Mrs. Meredith, and Niall's dad, who were the ones who were with him. So that was one of the things that gave me pleasure. And I suppose the other thing was to do more with the school in general. Well, that's the second thing that I can think of that gave me great pleasure, was when they came back in 2014. No, it was, yes, it was the year that I retired.
Yeah, it was.
And they came back in the January to see that we were doing all right. And Mr. Williams was very worried. And there were 2 lady inspectors we were. And they spent 2 days here. And they came in on the second day into my office. And they had a chat. And they said that they were pleased with what they had seen. And Mr. Williams was really, really pleased as well. And I couldn't keep my secret. I was going to tell all the teachers how pleased I was. So that was the second really happy thing, I suppose. There were lots of other things, that I was happy with, but those are the two in the last 5 years or 6 years when I was ahead. Those are two of the things that really stand out.
What is the naughtiest thing a child has ever done during your time working at Portmead?
Oh, now then. 1972. The behaviour of the children was excellent. The head teacher, Miss Morgan, she was only a little woman, and her fingers, she had arthritis, she couldn't bend them. And she used to take assembly every morning. And she wouldn't shout at the children to be quiet. She had a little bell. And she had the little bell on the floor in the hall. I don't know if have you got a stage in the hall at the moment?
Yes.
Right. Well, on the stage, she'd have this little bell. And she'd come in, she'd stand by the bell, and then she'd just tap the bell with her foot. Silence. Nobody did anything. And then the assembly started, and everybody went out quietly. So for the first 5 years that I was here, the behaviour was great. But then, after that, some of the boys and girls that came into Portmead were very, very, very naughty. I've got to be honest. And there was one incident I can remember, and there were two brothers, and they'd been very naughty lunchtime, and they didn't come back into school. They ran out of school. Now, what do you think I had to do?
Spend them.
Hmm?
Spend them, maybe.
Well, before that, I had to get them back into school. We couldn't let them out, could we? So we had to go and look for them. But as well as that, I had to phone the police. But these particular boys, I think they'd climbed the gates and run out of the school. And we looked everywhere for them. We couldn't find them. And then eventually we found them down, well, somebody'd seen them down the bottom by the Cadler, by the old bridge. But then after that, they ran up. Have you been for a walk through Penllygare Woods?
Yes.
Yeah? Do you know the lake right up the top?
Yes.
Well, they'd run all the way up there. So the police had to go and get them and bring them back to school. And it was the end of the day by the time they came back. And the police came back with them and their parents. And we weren't very happy, obviously. So that's one of the worst behavioural issues we've had. There've been quite a lot.
Mr. Williams, Portmead has been open nearly 70 years. We know for the 50th anniversary, the school made a film. What involvement did you have in this?
We decided when the school had been open for 50 years that we had to celebrate. So we thought, well, Mr. Williams thought, that it would be a good idea if everybody in the school took part and we put a big show on for mums and dads and people that have been in the school. And I thought, well, the hall that we've got in Portmead, I don't know, it's not really big enough, because when we do something, we used to put shows on for Christmas, and mums and dads would come and it would fill the hall. But because it was a special celebration, I thought we had to look for somewhere bigger and better. I wanted to go to a proper theatre. So we had to think. And one day I was over in what was, and I don't think you'd remember it, Daniel James School.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know?
The old T-Dino.
Yes, yeah, next to the Dino Wells School. Well, that was a secondary school called Daniel James, and before that it was Moneybar. Anyway, I was over there one day, and in a meeting, and I said to the head, "Look, I've got this idea. I'd like to have a 50th anniversary show. Is there any way we can do it over here in your hall? Because the school had a lovely hall. They had lots of lights, professional lights that could be controlled. You know, have you been to the cinema or to the
We actually
pantomime?
have some
Yeah.
of them in the hall as well.
You've got them now, have you? Well, there we are. We had just a few lights when I was here. But I thought, well, it was a special occasion and we needed somewhere that was special as well. I spoke to the head teacher there and he said, yes, you can use our hall. Right, great. So we had the place to do it. Now we needed somebody to help with, because every class in school was going to do an item in this production. Everybody, from the nursery up to year 6. And then there were people that used to come into school to help with dance and drama. So there was one particular lady, and I said to her, look, we want to do this. Can you help us? Yes, she said, I'll come in. So she came in to help with all the classes to do whatever they wanted to do. But then, before we could go over there to Daniel James, we had to go and practice. So we had to organise buses to take every child from the school, and we're talking about, at the time, there were 250 children, I think it was. So we were talking about taking those children once a week over to rehearse in Daniel James. And I remember one teacher, and she came to me and she said, Mr. Williams, she said, do you think you're doing the right thing? Do you think we can do this? Get all those children over there and practice and bring them back and not lose anybody? I said, don't worry, we'll be all right. So we got the special teacher in to help. Then we arranged for buses. And then I went to see the man who, and I can't remember his surname, but I know his Christian name, he was called Clive. And I told Clive, I said, look, this is the idea I've got. Is there any chance that you can come and video it for me? Yep, we'll sort it out, he said. So that's what we did. The time came, we did it for 2 nights, and the buses came here after, I think we started at about 6 o'clock, and it went on until about 8:30. And we did it in the hall in Daniel James for 2 nights running. And it was a huge success. It was a huge success. And the man who was in charge of education in Swansea at the time, he was invited, and he stood up at the end and he praised all the boys and girls for all the hard work that they'd done, and they deserved it, because it was very good. What I would say, it was very professional, and with the lighting as well. So that's where this video CD came from, is all that, and it was great. And I think it's something that the boys and girls that took part will remember forever.
Classroom look like?
In here, well, when I was teaching, where Miss is sitting now, I had my desk, and then there were 5 groups of desks around. But I've got to be honest, and Mrs. Meredith will probably say this, my desk was terrible. It was always covered in papers and books.
Pensions, like a lot of stuff.
Yes. No. Oh, and that room in there, Mr. Williams, as Mrs. Meredith said, I was known as a hoarder. Do you know what a hoarder is?
Someone that holds on to something for many years.
Yeah, because I used to work on the premise that something will be useful in 7 years' time.
That's exactly
So-
what we did.
I used to keep everything. And even when I was a head teacher, I didn't used to throw books out. There's a room down the others in the infant department. There was chock-a-block of books because perhaps they were books that we'd stop using in school. But I thought, no, they might be useful in a few years' time, so we'll hang on to them just in case. So that was a classroom chock-a-block. But my classroom here, the desk was always untidy. And I had over there, where you've got your pencils and pens, we had a little bit of a library. And we had, you haven't got one anymore.
The library is actually behind the
Oh, right.
gallery.
Right. And I used to, behind there where it says Sgiliau Bywyd, there's probably a blackboard.
It is.
Yeah? And Mr. Williams had a blackboard there because when I started, we used to use the blackboard a lot. So yeah, the children were in groups around here. We had a painting corner. Very often, the last couple of years that I was teaching, that room in there, we converted that into a painting place where children could go in and paint as well. So that's what my classroom roughly looked like.
So
And it wasn't always tidy, I've got to be honest.
Who was your favourite member of staff that you worked with?
Oh. Good. Well, you know, over the, 40 years that I've taught here, I've got to be honest, I've been lucky to work with some great teachers and some great teaching assistants over the 40 years. And, it's difficult to say, this is my favourite. But I've got to be honest, I met my wife in Portmead.
We mentioned that.
There's Miss Morgan,
My dad's cousin, Alice, did tell.
that was the head teacher, and the lady next to her, that's my wife. So she was teaching here when I came, and then after 7 years, we got married. So I've got to say that my favourite teacher in the whole school is my wife. If I didn't say that now, I'd be in trouble, wouldn't I?
yes.
Yeah, but there she is. But there were, apart from my wife, there were lots of great people here. Mrs. Jones there, she used to be the Welsh teacher, and we had a lot of fun. This picture here, and there's another one, you are here. Can you see the girls here are in this sort of a special, not a uniform, but clothes. And here, and when I started here, boys and girls in Portmead used to take part in a competition every year called the Urdd Eisteddfod. Are you familiar with it? Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, well done. So what did you do this year?
Dancing and choir.
Dancing and choir. Great. So what sort of dancing were you doing? Pop dancing?
No, more like contemporary.
Contemporary.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, next month.
It was a Welsh story last time.
All about the lifeboat.
Yeah, lifeboat.
So where did you go to compete? Down to Gowerton? Yeah.
Theatre.
Here, we used to do a lot with the Urdd Eisteddfod, and my wife used to do the choir, and we used to go competing. We do it locally, and I don't know if you know about the Urdd Eisteddfod, but the Urdd Eisteddfod is held alternatively 1 year in the South Wales, next year North Wales. And this choir here, they travelled all the way up to North Wales because they got through the heats down in South Wales, and they got through to the final in North Wales, so we had to travel to North Wales to compete. But we didn't stay in hotels. We stayed with people, families from North Wales for the 2 or 3 nights. The dresses they were wearing in the picture, my wife's mother made every single one of them.
Really?
40 dresses, 40 odd, more than 40.
Wow.
So made them all. But yeah, we used to take part, and over there, they used to take part in the rugby as well.
When we were looking at the pictures from the past, we saw that at some point in 2000 you had your arm in a sling. What happened?
So right there we found a picture of you in a sling.
In the 2000s, there's a story here. Do you know that I just said earlier on now about school inspections?
Yes.
Yep. So before these school inspectors come, we always make sure that the school is looking perfect. Everything was where it's supposed to be, and pictures up everywhere, children's work. And one day, I was helping in the hall, and we wanted to put things up high up on the side of above. It was above the
food hatch.
Yeah, the food hatch where we just have food in that hall. Yeah.
Sandwiches, yeah.
Right. So you know where the food hatch is?
Yeah.
We were decorating above there, and I brought a ladder out, propped it up against the wall, and I think we had a display up there that had slipped or something, so it needed securing. Mrs. was in the hall, and another lady called Mrs. Morgan. Now, Mrs. Morgan, we always made sure everything was done properly. So I was going up the ladder, and Mrs. Morgan was at the bottom of the ladder, making sure that the ladder didn't slip.
Very tall ladder, wasn't it?
Oh, it was a very tall ladder because it was on the second extension.
It was.
It was. And I said, right, you keep your foot at the bottom. And up I went and started securing. And I heard somebody coming into the hall. I thought nothing of it. 2 minutes later, my ladder started slipping. Down the wall.
I'm gonna, sorry, I got to Mr. William.
Yeah.
Mrs. Morgan was holding the ladder very tightly. And I started speaking to Mrs. Morgan. And when I was speaking to her, Mrs. Morgan said, well, hold this ladder a minute now. She went to get something just for that on the piano, just for that. And I was talking, holding the ladder, and I forgot I was holding the ladder. And I
Stepped away.
I stepped away, took my hands off the ladder. It's not funny, boys and girls. That was my fault. I took my hands off the ladder because I was talking. Forgot Mr. Williams was up very, very high. And the next minute, the bang,
Yes.
the ladder went, and the biggest bang I've ever heard. And then there was another bang. It was Mr. Williams behind the ladder. I thought I'd killed him. I thought he was dead. I just went on one scream. It was horrific. And I've been waiting
So-
for that question.
So that's where that comes from. So that's how that happened.
What time did school start and finish in the past?
Ooh. Well, when I started teaching in Portmead, we would start at 9 o'clock, and we had to come into school. We came through the door, and you were in front of the door. If you were coming into the main entrance, we had a big table there, big wooden table, And on the big wooden table, there was a little black book. And every teacher, as they came through the door, had to sign their name and the time that they'd come into school. So the teachers didn't have to be here till 9:15. Now, over the years, that's changed a lot. And I think if you look at teachers today, what time are you in school in the morning? 8 o'clock? 7:30. There we are. So that's how much it's changed. So we used to start at 9 o'clock and we'd finish at 4 o'clock, but we had an hour and a half for lunch, which was a long time. So yeah, it was a longer day than you're doing, but we had probably longer breaks as well. And there was one particular teacher when I started, and 9 times out of 10, he'd be late every week. And Miss Morgan would be there. She'd by the door in the end, and she'd be saying, look at the time. But we all had a good time. It was a great time.
Mr. Williams, I think we have grilled you enough. Thank you so much for answering our many questions.
That's
We
all
are
right.
very grateful. Before we end this fantastic podcast, is there any other memories, special moments you'd like to share?
Lots of them. There's one particular winter, and when I started back in the 70s, the winters used to be really bad, lots of snow, and we'd come in, and the children, because we were most of the children from around here, most of the boys and girls were in school. And one particular day we'd had a lot of snow, and the bank outside was covered in snow, and Miss Morgan, she said, oh look, get the boys and girls outside, have some fun outside. So we went outside and we started building snowmen. And then one of the boys, I think it was, said, oh, pity we haven't got a toboggan, we could go down the bank. Well, we didn't have anything in school like that. But in that room there was a lot of spare furniture. And we had wooden desks, 4 legs, and a wooden top to it. And do you know what we did? We took some of those desks out, turned them upside down, and the boys and girls slid down the bank and used it as a toboggan. And what did we use? We used some plastic sacks and things like that.
So why didn't you use bread baskets?
Well, we didn't have access to any of those then. We could only use what was in school. And I don't think we had any bread baskets in school at the time. So that's one memory that sticks in. And we had lots of fun. We used to take boys and girls on residential trips. Oh, there's more trouble coming now. Very Jill.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Are they putting you through your paces, Mr. Williams?
Pardon?
Are they putting you through your paces?
They
I
are
am.
indeed, yes.
Amazing. And finally, what are your thoughts about the potential merger of Portmead and Blind Mice Primary?
Well, I think it's long overdue, because 2 years before I finished, there was talk, well, more than talk, of putting a new school up for Portmead and Blind Mice. And we thought it was a good idea, and they were going to build it. And I'm not sure where the proposal for the new school is, but the proposal for the school at the time was across the way, Llangwm, is it? Over there. I think Portmead and Blind Mice deserve a new school. They've deserved a new school 20 or 30 years ago, because that's all they've done with these 2 particular schools. And I'm not saying it's only Portmead and Blind Mice, they've done it to other schools as well, is patch them up and keep them going. But things are changing so much in education that boys and girls need what I call a state-of-the-art school to keep up with things. So I think, yes, it's long overdue, where they put it is very important for everybody so that everybody feels happy going there. And I hope it doesn't take too long for them to make the decision and build it.
Well, Mr. Williams, thank you on behalf of Year 6 and Portby Primary School. Thank you so much for joining us today on our first podcast.
Thank you. Diolch yn fawr. It's been a privilege to come in and talk to you, and you're a lovely class. I can see you're a fantastic Year 6 class.